On that note, we are recording this webinar. Thank you all for taking the time to be here today. My name is Tiffany Orth. I'm the VP of Mobility at the Minneapolis Regional Chamber and also Executive Director of our subsidiary Move Minneapolis. Welcome to the second of our new sustainability webinar series. Today's webinar is going to be all about energy and how organizations can make system-wide improvements for efficiency and savings. So you'll be hearing from our service providers here in the region, some of our biggest ones, Honeywell and Xcel. We're delighted that they can be here with us today. And just for anyone who just joined, just want to make sure you note that we are recording the meeting and that this will be sent out after the meeting as well. All right, and with that, let me pull up our slide deck to get going here. All right, so I want to also just start out by thanking both our featured speakers and our sponsors today, Honeywell and Xcel. We're so grateful that they're supporting this sustainability webinar series as a whole and also providing more insights into their great programs and offerings today. So thank you both very much for doing that and investing with us on this journey that we're embarking on. And these are the speakers you'll be hearing from later today. We have Cindy Auld with Honeywell, John Eckel with Chisago County, Sherry Kelly with Xcel, and John Bestow with Xcel as well. Thank you all for being here. One thing I wanted to just highlight about this webinar today really is just that, again, this is the second in our series, and this is part of the Chamber's ongoing work to really figure out how we can walk the walk around sustainability and bring more people into our sustainability journey and allow everybody to be able to share programs, resources, offerings with each other, learnings, insights as you all are on various parts of your sustainability journey. And we want to be able to create that space of peer learning. So in the spirit of that, I want to encourage everybody throughout the webinar to share questions, comments, learnings in the chat. And then we'll also have dedicated time for discussion towards the end to engage both our speakers and other participants in things that you all may have learned or questions you might have embarking on any energy system improvements in your organizations. Also wanted to just note that we are going to be having the presentation take place for about the next 30 minutes here too. So that will be a little bit towards the end. So I also just wanted to bring in some of our learnings too from the Chamber in this. We, like I said, have started out on our own sustainability journey about a year ago where we started gathering data and figuring out how we can make ourselves more carbon neutral in our offerings. And part of the complication in doing that was we had multiple offices across different locations, and we're also a small nonprofit within that. And I know that that is similar to other organizations' journeys. And so I wanted to mention, particularly for any smaller organizations that might be joining today and wondering how some of the conversation around larger scale organizations can apply. We found that we have an opportunity as tenants in our buildings to be able to advocate for different solutions with our building owners and property managers. And so we're looking at how we can be armed with information that like you're going to hear today to be able to take back to our building owners and property managers, encourage them to make these system-wide improvements across their footprints. So this is something then, if you aren't necessarily in a position to be making these energy system decisions on your own, this hopefully is information that you can take back to your organizations and or building owners and be able to make a better case for how they can make their operations more efficient and better for the environment. So just wanted to mention that. And I also just want to mention too that again, we're all in the spirit of learning. So really, we have fabulous speakers here who are going to share insights, but again, please share any learnings that you might have had as well in the chat. So with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to Christine to take us into the presentation. Christine. Yeah.
I had a lot to say there. Sorry you missed it. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nancy Levitz. I am the Chief of Staff for the Minneapolis Regional Chamber. I also serve as the Vice President of Strategic Initiatives. This climate and sustainability work falls underneath that umbrella, and it's my privilege to be doing this work with Tiffany, as well as our colleague Frances Huntley and Grace Waltz. So let us get started today. I think Cindy, we're going to start with you and John, and then we'll move into a conversation with Sherry and John. So please go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christine. Super thrilled to be here today to share information about our programs on facility-wide energy improvements for the public entity we'll talk about today, as John is from Chisago County and he'll share his experiences with our programs today. But this also applies to private businesses as well. Next slide. So just to share, as we all sort of think about facility and infrastructure improvements within our own buildings, it can be overwhelming. Also, it's very expensive, as we all know, and sometimes it's difficult to get the funding that we need. So sometimes we're working on a reactive basis rather than a proactive basis. And so we fix things when they break. It's just a given thing, right? So kind of a typical process that the public sector goes through, and many other types of businesses as well, as you get that list of assets that are in need of repair or replacement. And then you also are talking, you always get the list of the maintenance costs, right? And you want to make sure that the equipment that's on there, if they are end of age, or if they are, ready to fail, that has to be on that list as well. So then you get to the point where you need to start thinking about prioritizing the equipment and the upgrades on your list. And then you kind of get into that challenge. How are we going to pay for this, right? And so you look at your CapEx budgets. We all do our CapEx budgets yearly or yearly, and we develop that list as well. And then you have competing priorities across your organization, right? So you have the facilities folks and all the other departments that are competing to grab these dollars to pay for their upgrades and their things that they need in the business. So then what happens is, you're going to start, maybe grabbing the most important projects that you need to implement first, and then some of those other deferred maintenance pieces fall off, right? So then there's those challenges. And then there's also the challenges, if you're going to do a project, you need to obtain some monies to do that, right? So there's the way some customers will go out and obtain some financing or bonding or whatever they do to get access to the funding. But again, only then the critical projects get implemented and you still have that list of deferred maintenance out there. And then also the strains of resources, staff resources to implement projects within your organization, and they can be very complex. And so, let's say you have to upgrade your steam boiler, or if you have to upgrade lighting or whatever it is within your building, you're going to be dealing with different partners to get those things done, different subcontractors. And it's a lot of juggling. It's a lot of managing of your resources to get these projects done. And then again, when this would be more like a piecemeal type process, right? You're kind of trying to check off the most challenging projects, or the whatever projects you're doing. You may be extending out these projects 5 to 10 years to get them done, just because of the restrained resources, right? And you don't want to do projects that are going to raise taxes. That's not also a very popular thing to do. Next slide. So in our programs, I'm going to talk about a program that we have that tackles these projects a bit differently with our customers and with the process. And so what we would start to do is we come in and do a baseline energy analysis on all of your portfolio of buildings, right? All of your equipment, anything that uses energy within your building. We develop that baseline. We then get a very clear picture of your opportunities and where you need to upgrade equipment to meet your sustainability goals, meet your climate action goals, what's your resiliency requirements or thoughts within your city, county, school district, private business. And then we put all that information together and build a path to meet these goals, and utilizing energy efficiency, improving your efficiency within your building, reducing your carbon footprint. All of that goes in line to meet these goals. Next slide. So the program that I'm talking to is energy savings performance contracting is one of the programs that we offer that will help you get there. It's a tool. It's enabled legislation through Minnesota. All 50 states except for one have this program within their statutes, except for Iowa. Not sure why Iowa decided not to participate. So basically, this is a really great program that allows you to use a budget neutral approach to upgrading your infrastructure within your buildings by utilizing the energy savings as well as the operational savings to get the projects done. So you use those funds to implement your project. And then we also, as Honeywell and other ESCOs do this as well, will guarantee those energy savings to the customer in the end. And I'll talk about the M&V portion of the project and process. Honeywell actually pioneered these programs way back 40 years ago with the state. So we have a large portfolio of experience. We've done more than 7,000 energy projects with customers and saved them over $6 billion in guaranteed energy savings. So very exciting. We also have partner banks throughout the country that we work with, and we offer, they'll offer low interest financing through that partnership. Next slide. And then if you're more of a visual person, kind of here, this is what the program looks like in a pie chart. So before our improvements or your improvements in your program, you have a lot of energy costs, right? So inefficient equipment, deferred maintenance, that equals very high energy costs. And you have capital appropriations, high maintenance operations and maintenance budget, or usually budget, but costs. You're replacing equipment, end use parts, those kinds of things. After the improvements, after we do the retrofits, after we implement the program, the second pie chart is what it's going to look like. You'll have lower energy costs. You're going to have lower cost capital appropriations and O&M costs. And then you're going to have that nice piece of the pie chart that's going to allow you to have some revenue streams back into your business. And that will account for your cost avoidance. If you get things done now, you're going to save money over time, right? What's it going to cost to do something in 5 years? Right? What's the cost that are going to accumulate? So that's their fun piece of the pie. So the program highlights are really no upfront costs to customers for this program, which is why they like it as well. And we start with a no-cost energy audit to develop that baseline. Honeywell would fund the development of the whole process and program, as well as secure any financing that you would need. And then also, again, guarantee those energy savings with measurement and verification in the end. So really, another reason why customers like it is it's a turnkey approach to doing these projects. And they don't have to be at risk. Honeywell's at risk from start to finish. So we do the beginning of the audit, design and engineering. We help with we do the bidding out to the subcontractors through the whole construction phase, as well as then verifying the savings. Next slide. So I will turn it over to John, and he's going to share his experience in, really, we would call it phase 2 and 3 of programs and projects that we've worked with them on. We also did phase 1 way back in the mid-90s on an energy project. But with that, I'll go to you, John.
Okay. Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, thanks. I'm gonna apologize right now. I've got a pretty nasty cold, so it sounds like my head's plugged up and you see me mute quick. I'll try to not cough into the microphone. So apologize ahead for that. At Chisago County, I've been here 33 years. I'm the Enterprise Services Director and CIO for the county. I have watched facilities and anything related to the facilities. Um, it's all deferred maintenance. That's how we've operated our place for years. And deferred maintenance here has meant once we installed it and the warranty, the free service ran out, we pretty much didn't do anything else other than just keep it alive. And as you can imagine, when you do that across many facilities, the costs don't go down, the issues don't get less. It just becomes a bigger and bigger mountain that you're trying to reach over the top of. The budgets, we're not a huge county. We're on the edge of the metro. In some cases, we're considered one of the 13 counties, which means we have the demands for services of the metro, without all the tax base that the metro counties have. So the budgets are a big deal. We never have enough money to do everything we need to do, let alone want to do. So when we started this process, we went through the buildings that were in the worst shape. What you see on this slide here is our government center, our main courthouse. What you see on the left-hand side was built in 1989. What you see on the right-hand side of that looks like one big building was built in 1973. So there was lots of room for improvement. We had library buildings that are coming up on 20 years. We had a health and human services building that's almost that old. And then we had a county jail and sheriff's office, a law enforcement center that's fairly new. It's only 4 or 5 years old, but there were some design issues in there that we'll talk about as we go through here, and that were costing us a lot of money in wasted energy. Next slide, please. So we attacked this project in a two-phase project, although it was under one contract. So basically what we did is broke it into and phasing gets a little problematic when you use it. It was really an A and a B. It was all under one one contract, all handled by Honeywell. But there were some issues that we had to address up front. One of them was, it wasn't an issue, there was massive amounts, in our opinion, of funding available through Xcel, which we really appreciated, that drove all our changing out our existing lighting systems in all of our facilities to LED. I can tell you phase one, long ago in the dark ages with Honeywell, was moving our fluorescent lights, moving two fluorescent lights, in some cases away from the old incandescent bulbs. And then this novel thought of that you could run, instead of 110 volt light, you could run 277 three-phase. That was the original project way back in the 90s. And that had been in existence basically, other than replacement of ballast, that's all that had ever been done since then. So that was a big uplift for us and a significant help. Well, the huge help came from Xcel Energy and the rebate programs. Those were under some deadlines, so that drove that ahead. That's why some things got broke out into the second half of the project. HVAC, we had a lot of old HVAC. For those of you been around, and we had a lot of pneumatics, air compressors, and you lift up tiles in the ceiling and you'd hear air hissing all over the place. I don't need to tell you that if air escaping out of pipes is a bad idea, really bad idea, so then you can't control what you got. Submetering, I've stated for a long time, I cannot manage what I cannot measure. I have engineering background. I can sit down and run all kinds of fancy numbers and show you on paper the alleged savings or not, or however it is. But if I can't see real time what's really going on, I it's tough to be able, it's all just guessing and after the fact. So that was a big part of our system. Keys to the project, the utility savings, like I talked about, was huge. There was little impact to the taxpayers as compared to us trying to do this by ourselves. And Band-Aid fixes to facilities. We were really good at that. Unfortunately, we were really good at it. But you know, when you start putting Band-Aids over Band-Aids, pretty soon the glue in the original Band-Aid lets go, and then you really got some trouble. So next slide. Here's some general pictures of what we did. Government Center was, like I talked about, that was one of them with LED lighting, envelope sealing, keep the cold air out and the hot air out of a facility. That was, we had a lot of leaks, made a big deal. We added reheats, which we did not have in our HVAC system here, and digital control, the DVCs. That was a huge deal because we were massively, prior to this, we were massively overcooling or overheating parts of the building to try to make the other parts of the building somewhat comfortable. And we never would really accomplish it. Some offices would be down in the 60s, other offices would be up in the 80s, and it didn't matter if we were heating or cooling. That's just what happened. Better lighting. Our lighting was old, constantly having to be fixed, just issues to no end. That's where our rebate from Xcel came in. The air leaks as it lists there, the heating and overcooling. Jail upgrades. We had an exhaust hood over a kitchen, and this was kind of an issue. If we went into unoccupied mode for that kitchen, which is a commercial kitchen inside the jail, that operates 8 hours a day about, and the rest of the time, if we went into unoccupied, if it was in the wintertime, the cold air would drop down the hood and freeze the water lines underneath it. Well, I don't need to tell you what happens with why frozen water lines are a really bad idea. So to fix that, we ran the hood wide open, 24/7, 365. So we were heating and cooling the space as if it was in use, which sucked a lot of energy out. For our libraries, we replaced end-of-life controllers. They were old, really old. They were original. And so we had no, they were basically fancy old Honeywell. I keep saying they're the old Honeywell round thermostats. They were electronic, but barely. So we didn't have much ability to manage what was really going on there. Next slide. What we learned on this project, the pros and cons of the model. There's a few, I mean, there were so many pros, it was actually kind of hard to figure out some cons to it. The project delays, it took a long time to complete, but that wasn't anybody's fault. Literally, we had products sitting in containers bobbing off the West Coast on boats that we couldn't get to. You know, that was supply chain issues. We all have the bad issues that go on with that in the last few years. It is what it is. We did it as one project, which was a big deal. The better the price. I mean, it's just the way life goes. I just got a message in my internet is unstable. You hearing me? Okay, sorry. Making it one big project, it was just easier. It went to the board once. Everything got explained and detailed once. We didn't have to keep going back and forth. Another big pro to this was it went to the board, everybody signed off. When they were done, Honeywell took over, and I didn't have to manage all the subcontractors and deal with all that. It was very simple from my standpoint. Savings opportunities, obviously, like I talked about the Xcel, we had some federal funding, the ARPA funding. we were able to use for this. We are now better able to follow some of the state green initiative policies. And another big thing that isn't on here is our buildings are much there's a lot better control of our temperatures, heating and cooling, and so our employees, we don't hear all the complaints that we used to for terrible hot and terrible cold. Next slide. And I think this goes back to Cindy.
It does. Thanks, John. Yeah, so just I know we're tight on time here. So really, I mean, these programs are tailored to the customer, just like John was saying. It's what they needed. We got the things done that they were focusing on, and really getting those CapEx projects done with utilizing the financing options and the financing tools is key. It's a financial model. And, you know, sustainability goals, a lot of people have, a lot of counties, cities, school districts now have them. So we are helping customers get there. Next slide. And what's also really exciting is there's a lot of great policies out there right now, federal and state, and some things that they're implementing, like the Inflation Reduction Act, which has been such a great opportunity for customers, public entities to utilize. And so basically it's funding for renewable projects, and the monies and incentive go directly to the customer. And so solar, geothermal is getting really big here. We've been utilizing the funding for that. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act is a great opportunity as well to get some renewable energy funding. People have been utilizing ESSER funds. And then what's great also is, again, the policies. I mean, there's great policies here in Minnesota and other states to encourage this climate of energy efficiency. And then also, like for instance, SB 2030, if people are familiar, here in Minnesota, is a great policy that encourages the efficiency. Next slide. And yes, these projects can seem overwhelming at first, but there's resources and these programs that can help you implement them. As John said, you know, it's a great tool to get these things done and have the resource help to get them done. But yeah, so the energy saving program that I talked about is awesome to help you get these projects going. There's co-op purchasing through Sourcewell, who's based in Minnesota as well, for the, you know, help you through the RFP process / purchasing of these energy projects. Utility rebates, we'll hear from Sherry and John on to help you make your projects more viable. And then NACSCO, which is the National Association of Energy Service Companies, that helps you get resources and education and training, as well as an advocacy organization as well. So thank you. And I think then we're going to switch over to Sherry now.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in and let's just do another. I have a question actually myself.
Okay.
So we've got quite a few municipalities on this call, large organizations. John, if you're still on, and Cindy, how have folks navigated kind of possible resistance to doing this implementation? You know, John made the comment it only had to go in front of the board once. We only had to check this box once. I imagine that was advantageous, but some tips for folks that may have some sort of similar possible experience ahead of them. John, maybe you can speak to that.
Well, I hate to say it this way, but when your buildings are bad enough, any hope of improvement makes life easier, which is kind of where we were. But we have a long-standing relationship with Honeywell and a lot of trust. I mean, our board, which is kind of unique, because usually, at least in our county, the boards don't know the service providers that well. Honeywell has been here so long that they do know. The board does know about Honeywell and what they've done for us. And the document that was created by Honeywell clearly laid out exactly where the issues were, that we were trying to address, what the costs were, what the savings were, what the expected life was. That was one of my big things. I don't want to pay 20 years for a product that's no longer usable in 10. So they were very careful to lay all that out. And so there was it just was a well orchestrated process. And because it goes through the bidding process is done by Honeywell. And in our case, there's a state statute that allows all this to happen. It just makes it a lot easier. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think it did, John. I appreciate that. One of the things you said earlier in your comments kind of rang true to me. And I think all kinds of businesses use this in a lot of different ways, but it's important to know what you can measure and be able to see those outcomes. I mean, we have a big whiteboard outside of our office that we're using to do our own measurements, internal. And I mentioned also that data is important as you're looking at financing options and refund options. So I might use that as the segue to Sherry and the Xcel Energy team to kind of back that up and pull the connective tissues together with some of the things that Honeywell and Chisago County did, mentioning, since they did mention some of those resources. I myself being familiar with lighting, but let's dive in, Sherry. I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right, thanks. Thanks, everybody. And thank you to the Minneapolis Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity today. Next slide, please. So just a quick brief introduction. I know this is only for the city of Minneapolis, but just FYI, Xcel Energy has service territory in 8 states. This kind of visualizes where we are. We have 3.7 million electric customers, 2.1 natural gas. I'm not going to read all our acronyms or accolades, I should say, but we do have a reputation and a history of helping customers be more energy efficient. Next slide. So this is just, again, another look at just Minnesota. That 3.7 million electric customers, 1.3 of them are in Minnesota, and then just under 500,000 natural gas. And electricity reliability for any state, and especially in Minnesota, is super important, and we have a really good service record on that. And we, as you can see from the state map on the left, we do have a large swath of the metro area, as well as some up north and one area in the middle of the state. Next slide. So I just want to level set too, because Honeywell is a really big entity and they cover a lot of really big companies like Chisago County, but our business rebates are available for customers of all sizes, whether you're commercial or industrial. We have rebates available in all 8 states, depending if you're electric only, gas only, or a combination electric and gas. You just need to take a look at our website and determine which rebates you're eligible for, because not all the rebates that I'm going to be talking about here today are eligible, or I should say available in all states. Next slide. So for customers in Minnesota in particular, we have multiple options for them to save energy and money. If you go to our website, there are a lot of different options. You want to click on the business services link, and then there's a couple different choices. And if you go to save money and energy, that will get you to our rebate programs. Next slide, please. When John was talking about Chisago County and was talking specifically for lighting, if you maybe have all your lighting upgraded, maybe you need something else. Maybe you need an HVAC equipment, or if he was also talking about the hood in his commercial kitchen in the jail, we have rebates for that as well. We also have rebates for people, maybe they don't know for sure if it's going to fit to what we normally call a prescriptive or a flat rebate. Maybe they have to have something that needs to be analyzed. We have rebate programs for that as well. I'm going to specifically focus on our prescriptive programs, which you will find under lighting and equipment rebates. But I just want you to know there's more than just lighting rebates out there under that particular tile. We also, under our custom program, we do what we call a custom analysis, and each project is analyzed individually based on their merits, the cost of the program, and as well as the energy savings. And John Vesta, who's one of our engineers on the cooling program, he looks at a lot of our cooling projects, on different types of equipment. So we have expert help here, whether it's at engineering level or account manager or a business solution center, to help you figure out how we can make you more sustainable and more energy efficient. Next slide, please. So one of the programs that looks at the whole building envelope is Business Energy Solutions. If you remember the recommissioning program for maybe 5-10 years ago, BEA is an evolution of that. I do not know that much about this program. So if you have questions in the chat, I can take those questions back to the product manager and get them answered for you. But we're looking, how can we help you figure out how your envelope of your building, which is your windows, your roof, your insulation, how we can make that better. And there's different assessments that we can do based on the type of building that you have and the square footage. And if you're an industrial customer, which has a little bit different needs than a commercial customer, those are priced out here as well. There's some different language on here, but again, if you have specific questions, I'm happy to follow up on that for you. And next slide, please. This is just a reference chart that the product manager of the program sent to me. It's really busy and there's a lot of different components to it. So when you get the slide deck and you start looking, hey, does this something that would be beneficial to me? Maybe drill down in here as to, what actually do you need? Is an ASHRAE level 2 audit plus different support, or is a level 1? And then there's different things beyond that if you're a commercial or an industrial customer. And then we also have what we call our in-depth studies, where if you have you want an evaluation of your HVAC equipment. Say, like John said, some of his building equipment is like 20 years old. We want to just look at our equipment, our HVAC equipment within a certain building or a certain campus type. They'll do that for you as well. And we have funding available for those studies to customers to help you offset those costs. Next slide, please. So again, this is the custom analysis. Again, it's based on each project that a customer submits to us. If it's electric, you could get a rebate. If you have gas savings or a gas only, there's rebates for that. But a lot of things that we see that maybe don't fit our flat or our prescriptive rebates are like roofs or windows or forklifts. My mind just went blank on all the different custom options that we have. But out on our webpage, under custom analyses, they'll list all the different things that come through. Like, I'm sorry, I can't even think of the word I'm trying to say. Like extruders, that's what it was, have a custom rebate. VFDs is one of our flat rebates or prescriptive rebates, but if you have a need for a VFD over 200 horsepower, that would fall in custom. And you just fill out the application, which is a ginormous spreadsheet that you put in some information pertaining to your project, and then that comes into our engineering team and they take a look at it. Next slide, please. Besides custom and the prescriptive, we have a multitude of different project opportunities for customers to take advantage of. Like data centers, with all the computing needs that we have, like John was looking at, is submetering, all that information and data comes in. You have to figure out a way to be more efficient in making sure that your data centers are up to speed. We have a program that could help you with that. If you have a county facility where you have multifamily buildings, we have an opportunity for that, or controls. We also offer incentives for electric vehicles as well as demand response and renewables such as solar and wind. So there's a bunch of different things in different avenues that you can take advantage of. Next slide, please. Prescriptive rebates, these are kind of near and dear to my heart. That's where I spent the majority of my career at Xcel Energy, managing different programs. Many of our rebate programs that fall under prescriptive have 24-month invoice timeframe. What does that mean? That means if you do a project today, you have 24 months from date of invoice to submit your paperwork. We prefer that you don't wait that long, but if for whatever reason you have to wait, like if it's a phase project, you have that time to submit your paperwork. This process is pretty standard. You look at the rebate application, determine which equipment qualifies under the prescriptive, install that equipment, make sure it's operational, and submit the paperwork. Most of our rebates are capped at 60% of the project costs. If you happen to get a project that has a bonus on, like we have several bonuses in a market right now, those project costs goes up to 75%. And those bonuses, I'll have a few more detailed slides on those going forward. Next slide, please. So John talked about business lighting. Hopefully at some point when he got his lighting rebates, he was able to take care or advantage of the business lighting program bonus, which happens to be going on now, and we have had him in the market for a couple of years. But under lighting, there's different options. There's new construction or retrofit, network lighting controls, grow lighting. It is what it is. whether you're growing lettuce or funky lettuce, we have rebates for that. And then we have also custom lighting projects. And coming soon, we filed with the state of Minnesota to go from LED to LED, because when LED first came on the market, maybe 10, 15 years ago, that equipment is coming to the end of their life. And if you had to replace it at any time prior to when this actually is approved by the state, you had to go through custom, which is a little bit more involved process. Once that is approved by the state, it'll fall under prescriptive lighting and just make it easier for customers to get another rebate for LED. Next slide, please. As I hinted to, lighting has a bonus that launched on April 1st. It runs through November 15th, and you have to submit your project paperwork by December 1st. The 25% of grow or interior or exterior, 100% on tubes. And then if you do screw lamps, there's some additional bonuses. There are some exclusions that will apply to the product and the bonus, but if you go to the program webpage, it can tell you all the exclusions, or I can give you some information as to how you can get a hold of one of our business solution centers reps or your account manager for additional details. Next slide, please. So HVAC. So HVAC is kind of near and dear to my heart because that's been managing that on and off for like 3 or 4 years. It's a combination of several programs merged into one: heating, ventilation and cooling, and refrigeration. We're going to focus on mainly in this next few slides on HVAC. Next slide, please. So for heating options, I know in Minnesota, for Hennepin County in particular, you would get your gas rebates or gas incentives from CenterPoint Energy. We mirror a lot of the same rebates that CenterPoint Energy offers, but we also offer for outstate customers like Chisago County, maintenance and tune-up rebates, early retirement of your boilers or your steam boilers. Depending on the age of your boiler, if you retire it before the end of life, you could get a better rebate than if you wait until it fails. We also offer market transformation products, as well as there's multiple pathways for a customer to get a rebate. It's either custom or prescriptive. Next slide, please. We want to make sure that of all the offerings that we have, because we have a lot, that you are finding the option that works for you, whether it's prescriptive, with different types of equipment. We just recently launched prescriptive rebates for industrial customers with process load. Prior to that, it was all under custom. So now we're making it easier for those industrial customers to participate for like tune-ups and steam traps as well. We also offer some market transformation products that were just launched in January for heat pump water heaters and dual fuel rooftop units. Those are, I don't know if you're familiar with the term ECO, which is a Minnesota, and I don't remember what ECO stands for, so I might end up putting John at the spot at some point, but that allows the utilities to do fuel switching. And that is how these two market transformation measures got developed as part of that moving towards more electrification. Next slide, please. So VFD bonus launched on April 30th. It's their VFD rebates as a loan are pretty lucrative, but adding a bonus just makes it more advantageous for you to even add more efficiency to your facility or your processes. So this bonus is something that I was asked to bring back because it was so lucrative the last time that customers were asking for it. So we said, okay, we'll bring it back, but for a limited time. So this is going on now and runs through November 15th. Again, some exclusions apply. You just need to check the webpage for additional details. And again, if you have a need for a VFD over 200 horsepower, that would fall under custom. Next slide, please. So cooling, we have rebates for commercial AC rebates or equipment like DX units, chillers, screw chillers, centrifugal. But when we launched this program on January 1, a lot of our efficiencies changed. We got hit with 2 state efficiency or state code changes along with a federal one. So if you have an old rebate form, you might want to check the web to get a revised one because a lot of things changed on January 1. It affected the rebates depending on what the type of equipment was. So please make sure that you know exactly what qualifies and what doesn't qualify, because again, we don't want somebody to be left in the lurch, but all that information is online. Next slide, please. So one of the things that John talked about was kind of layering of incentives, or maybe it was Cindy, where you can get take advantage of the Xcel Energy rebates and then layer on maybe a state grant or a federal grant. And now all those rebates and incentives kind of help offset the first cost that you're going to incur when you improve your company's or your facility's energy efficiency. You know, everybody has sustainability goals, and if it's not a sustainability goal, maybe you need to reduce your carbon footprint. We're Xcel Energy, we're here to make sure that we can help you do that in whatever way that we can. Next slide, please. So one of the things that was asked of me when I was putting this slide deck together is to figure out which grants are available by the state of Minnesota. And what I found is that there's a ton of information out there. It wouldn't really give me just like a listing of everything. So I had this slide, which you're going to get in the PowerPoint deck that Tiffany sends out. But there is a hyperlink that takes you to the state of Minnesota website that lists all the grants that are available through the state. Next slide, please. And then there were some federal options as well. These are all hyperlinks. It was really hard to drill down to the specific detail of information, and I didn't want to like put 20 different slides together on the different opportunities that there is, but there is definitely information out there. And it feels like people are just want to help you figure out how you can take advantage of their money that they have available. Next slide, please. So one of the financing options that I know about, because I've worked with these people for a number of years, is Trillium BTU. They're out of the St. Paul Port Authority, and they do offer financing opportunities available for more than just electric customers. They do offer gas programs, but they do have a lot of opportunities if you need financing opportunity or to find an financing. And I'm sorry, I'm like tripping over myself. Financing needs to get your project off the ground. A lot of different details that are here. And if you need more information, please contact Trillium BTU. Next slide. So Xcel Energy recently launched, like within the last year or two, a financing opportunity through Empower Facilities. There's different opportunities that you can take advantage of. I know they do the lighting, heating, refrigeration, motion controls. I want to say they will also do something with recommissioning, but I'm not 100% sure because I don't work with this product very often. But Greg Ship is the person that manages that, and his email address is at the bottom of the slide. He'd be happy to help you figure out, is this the best financing opportunity or option for you and your project? Next slide, please. So where to start? Because that was a lot of information about a lot of really great programs. Well, if you happen to have an account manager, you know, you can contact them directly. We have had some personnel shifts over the last 5 or 6 months, and you're not sure who you would need to talk to or who your rep is. You can call the our Business Solutions Center and talk to one of our energy efficiency reps. They know all our programs. They also handle the rebate programs across Minnesota, Colorado, New Mexico, and South Dakota. So if you're looking for your rep or you need more information about a specific program or product, they're the people to get a hold of, and that is their email box, and they man that, or woman it, I should say, staff it would be a better word to use, every day, and they are in there pretty much all throughout the day, making sure that customers are getting the people they need and the resources they need in a timely manner. And next slide. And that was pretty much it. And I feel like I did another data dump on people. So does anybody have any questions?
I was going to just jump in and say, I have never been so excited to get a PowerPoint deck in follow-up ever. You have all been so incredibly thorough and brought so many resources forward. Yeah, that really has been the intention and is the intention of this webinar series, is really bringing all these things forward. And to those of you who are dropping other resources in the chat, perfect, delightful, we'll try to capture those also. I think this just really demonstrates that the opportunities are broad and wide, and that there are so many places to start, add, implement, almost accessorize your journey of climate sustainability and energy efficiency. It just is kind of like, you know, the emoji that goes like that. That's where I am. But also exceptionally delighted to be there, right? There is so much here to learn and dive into. And I really want to thank, you know, Sherry, John, and Cindy for coming forward with this information. Hopefully to those who are here, that we've tried to kind of spin this web and pull these pieces together, because it sounds like package building, knowledge, process, and building that finance deck and taking advantage of all those resources is really the way to approach this. And it really seems like thank you, Angela. That's exactly the emoji I was thinking about. Bringing all of these things together is super important, especially when, both small size business and, these kind of large campus / kind of city county wide, district wide commercial advancements are really significant. And I feel like a lot of thoughtful points have been brought forward as you start to think about how to put something like this together, not only to evaluate kind of to the point of, both Honeywell and Xcel, what you have, and also thinking about, the point John brought up about end of life, and like, don't let the stuff die. Like, don't have that be the case in which you need to go on this journey. So it's also, about really being thoughtful. Are there questions in the chat that I can bring forward in these last couple of minutes that we have here? And again, to, my point, this is a lot to process, but all of the good stuff. So I might just leave it open for a minute there. Tiffany, we can also bring forward, our next event in this series. You saw through both Xcel and Honeywell demonstrated a lot of resources that are available. And our goal really is to dive into those things. One of the things, yes, we're absolutely going to send the slides and the recording. Clark's got a question. Yay. Do the Xcel rebates and programs apply to governments as well as businesses? Clark is wearing his city council member hat.
Yes, they do apply applicable. They are government agencies, and like the state of Minnesota can take advantage of these rebates as well.
Great. Sean Vesta was shaking his head aggressively.
You just need to have a valid meter.
Yep.
And I feel like there's trouble.
That's the rule, right? You just have to have a meter.
Yeah, it feels like there's trouble if you don't have a valid meter.
Yeah.
That's a whole different story, would we say?
Yes.
Exactly. Great question. Do we have others in the chat here, Tiffany, that I can't see?
I don't think so. But I also want to just encourage anyone, particularly if you're a public agency and you've embarked on this, actually, we do have a question.
Yay.
Is there a good resource to learn more about Xcel's dual fuel rooftop units?
Well, if you go to xcelenergy.com and then it's HVAC-R programs, the program application that's dated for invoices dated January 1, 2024 or later has some information on there, but I don't have any specific dual fuel rooftop like info sheets. We're kind of like waiting for customers to start participating in this rebate before we put too much information out there, because what we could give you is more like industry-wide standard information, which may or may not be applicable to customers in Minnesota. So we're kind of, it's like the chicken and the egg situation. What do we do, this or do we do that? So unfortunately, if you need to talk to one of the engineers regarding the dual fuel rooftop units, I'm happy to put you in touch with them, because that's kind of not necessarily John's wheelhouse of expertise, but unless you have a specific engineering question.
You could ask me, I suppose.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'll probably have an answer.
That's true.
Might not be the right one.
Kyle, you can take yourself off mute if you have something specific.
No pressure.
Right. All the things. All right. Well, I feel like, nothing specific, just curious. Okay. Yep. Great. Well, with that, I'm going to wrap us on time, because that's what we try to do. So we'll send the deck, we'll send the recording. We welcome any feedback. You can message Tiffany and I directly. We're happy to connect you with any folks here. Happy to do that. And next month, July 18th, 12 to 1, we are going to talk about sustainable transportation. Tiffany is actually going to be our featured speaker with her team as we learn more about Move Minneapolis and some of the things that Tiffany, how employers can benefit and employees can benefit, and how this impacts our effort to become carbon neutral. What did I miss, Tiffany?
You got it.
Whew. All right. Well, I want to thank our speakers, thank both Xcel and Honeywell for bringing your expertise to this conversation, supporting our journey as we, the Chamber, learn more and try to bring these employer resources to you all. So with that, I will say thank you. And we hope to see all of you in July.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
everyone.
And thank you so much.
All righty. Bye all.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.